wanted to say good day to you all. We thank you for the co-creation of this interaction and for allowing us to transmit to you in this way our perceptions, our perspective of various ideas, various concepts that we will now discuss. Let us begin by allowing yourselves to relax and allow yourselves to simply, naturally, easily, and effortlessly absorb the following information that we shall entitle, as you say, to you, to use, in whatever way your imagination so desires, and which you shall entitle yourselves to use, in whatever way your imagination so desire, the following information that we shall title this and that, which shall be subtitled the spectrum of reflection. This and that. We have many times in our transmissions to you talked about the state of being that we find many of you have been operating in for many years based on certain belief systems that you have been taught, based on certain definitions that you have been brought up with, based on these beliefs and definitions that you apply to many given situations in your lives, that you will more often than not, based on these beliefs, look at situations and apply to them this or that. You will see things as this or that, as that or this, when in most situations you would actually find greater benefit and greater understanding and greater facility in transforming the situations into the effects that you prefer by addressing the situation from the perspective of this and that. Because all things exist at once, and even though we understand that by having a certain frequency, by having a certain definition, that you will experience one thing or another, we are not attempting in this understanding to eliminate the idea that you are experiencing one thing at a time. However, in many circumstances within the thing you are experiencing, within the situation that you are experiencing, it actually does not help you to further break down that experience into a this or that situation. Because when you do, you are not allowing yourselves the benefit of the unifying principle of the positive and constructive energies and states of being that would give you an understanding of how to allow the circumstance to serve you in a positive way. Because by addressing it, by perceiving it, by viewing certain circumstances and certain options within circumstances, and as you view certain qualities within certain circumstances as a this or that situation, you create and set up for yourselves a dichotomy, a polarity, a conundrum that does not allow you a holistic, big picture view of the circumstances to the degree that would allow you to understand how to transform things into the effects that you desire, into the effects that you prefer. By breaking down certain circumstances into this or that situations, you limit yourselves and create negative energies, negative states of being that allow you to become confused and caught up in certain kinds of repeating loops. Because on one hand, the higher mind will sense that everything is a this and that circumstance, that you always have the option of accessing any and all opportunities within any given scenario. While the physical mind limited by certain belief systems and definitions that you've bought into that are not aligned with your preferred self, that are not aligned with your true vibration, will perceive things in this puzzling, paradoxical, shall we say, polarized kind of way, where it can only be one way or another. And thus then preventing yourselves from being capable of seeing and experiencing a much broader perspective, a much bigger point of view, and limiting the options available to you by assuming that if one thing is this, that it can only be this, and that it cannot contain the other. This is where you begin to learn how to use paradox in its most beneficial form and not in its negative form. How you learn to balance polarity in its most positive way and not experience the results of the negative interpretation. This or that perspectives will only allow you the limited ability to perceive whatever opportunities, doorways, whatever, shall we say, options are available to you that are connected to the thing that you are focusing on, and will not allow you to experience the opportunities that are available to you with its polarity, with its polar opposite, by eliminating the connective energy of and by thus then focusing only on or circumstances in an or mentality, a this or that mentality. You truly prevent yourselves from expanding your consciousness and from seeing things from a broader point of view, a broader perspective. And you actually shut the doors through which different inspirations, different imaginings, different perspectives could come to you, because you are not being inclusive, you are being exclusive. Expansion of consciousness is the product of inclusivity, not exclusivity. Many people on your planet, when they begin to learn certain spiritual and metaphysical principles, will actually take an old style route, an old style approach to the idea of absorbing and learning about these metaphysical principles, and will actually contradict their ability to truly absorb these principles in the most positive way by thinking that as they expand or explore the further reaches of their consciousness, that certain other things ought not to occur, that it's got to be either this or that. In other words, if you are in your mind sometimes believing that you are exploring the idea of the expansion of your consciousness, you often set up ultimatums within yourself. Well, if I am experiencing the idea of the expansion of consciousness, then I have to experience it in a certain way. And if I experience it in another way that might be more reminiscent of the way things used to be, then something is wrong. I'm not expanding. It's a this or that ultimatum. I either experience this or I experience that, and there can be no blending of the two. There can be no meeting of the minds. There can be no blending or melding of these ideas, because from the perspective you have set up, from the perspective you have created, there is an exclusivity issue, and there is only room for one thing and not room for another, and both cannot coincide, cohabit the same space at the same time. Nevertheless, they actually do, in a manner of speaking. Since all things exist now, in reality, even though different frequencies of things may make them appear to be exclusive or excluded, on the fundamental level, they all exist in exactly the same space at exactly the same time. Everything that exists now. It is this and that, 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 and that. Now, granted, certain expressions of this and that maybe more or less relevant to what you immediately need to experience. And again, we are not eliminating the idea of focus in this. We're not talking about the idea that you must somehow experience such a multitude of things all at once that you become confused and befuddled. It's not what we're saying. We understand that because of your linear space-time reality, you are going to experience things one at a time. And in that context, yes, you are using the idea of exclusivity and focus and limitation to your benefit to keep you focused in a certain experience and have no other experience that interferes with it. But that's not what we're saying. The this and that we're referring to is that within any one exclusive given experience, there are still a number of ways to view that experience more holistically, with a broader perspective and a broader understanding that allows you the opportunity to examine all possible options that are relevant to that single experience. It's just that when you use the mechanism of limitation and exclusivity to help you focus through the ego structure on a single experience, you often, out of habit, unconsciously continue to apply the same exclusive principle within the single experience, and that's where you often create difficulty and negative limitation for yourselves. Because you think you have to continue the same process that brought you that single experience, that limited your focus down to that single experience in order to get the full understanding of that experience. And that's where the true positive paradox comes in. Once you have focused down in a manner that creates or attracts to you a particular single experience at any given moment, in truly understanding what that experience is all about and how you can use it to maximum effect and maximum benefit, you actually have to expand back out, expand your focus back out, broaden your focus back out within that single experience in order to fully benefit and fully extract from that single experience all of the things it has to teach you, all the opportunities it has to provide for you, all the doorways it has to offer you, to open for you, to allow you to truly have a full experience of that single event. This is where balance comes into play. Balancing the energies of limitation and expansiveness in a very, very playful, very open way that will allow you to focus when you need to, allow you to be exclusive when you need to, allow you to use limitation when you need to benefit yourself, while at the same time allow you to use the expanded point of view, the holistic and holographic point of view within that single experience to reap the benefit of everything that that single experience has to offer to you. Again, this is the point of power in paradox, is learning that it's this and that, and here we see a perfect example of using the idea of exclusivity and inclusivity simultaneously in a this and that scenario instead of a this or that scenario. It is thus then an art form of a sense to learn how to focus down and expand out, focus down and expand out. This is similar to what we have spoken of with regard to the idea of visualization and manifestation. Visualization and manifestation. In the sense that in visualization, you are focusing on an image, bringing it down to a particular, specific, exclusive, representative image of the reality you prefer. And once the energy builds up, the excitement builds up as a result of that particular symbolic visualization, thus, then the idea is to just hold on to the energy state and let the vision go and expand back out into a completely non-focused state of being. In a sense, surrendering the vision, as you say, and no longer insisting that that particular vision has to come true in order for the accurate and appropriate and relevant manifestation to occur. Because as we have said, the higher mind knows how something is truly going to happen, but the physical mind does not. So in letting go of that limiting, specific, symbolic visualization and just allowing the energy to remain, you are thus then expanding back out into the idea of letting the higher mind bring you whatever the actual representation, whatever the actual manifestation is of the energy state that the visualization generated within you, reflected to you. So it is a similar idea, similar art form of focus and letting go, focus and expansion, that we are talking about now with the idea of the this or that and the this and that situation and scenario. This or that brings you down to the idea of a state of being where it does not seem that other routes are possible to allow manifestations to occur, to allow things to transform. While this and that is always allowing, always leaving an opening for something to occur that is unexpected, always allowing you to examine and explore more options and more opportunities that you may not have previously been able to consider. Because again, remember, the other principle that we have talked about is that you cannot perceive the vibration of something you don't already contain first. You have to be on a certain wavelength in order to perceive the things that are relevant to that frequency. And if you allow yourself only the this or that scenario, the this or that limiting focus within any particular individual scenario, then you are truly making it very, very difficult, very improbable that you will be capable of seeing other avenues, other routes, other opportunities that you could take in order to manifest certain states of being. But when you approach this single event, any single event, at any given moment that you have created with your positive limitation, your positive exclusivity, and thus bring into that positive, exclusive moment the expanded point of view of this and that there are many ways to allow this to manifest, many different routes by which this could manifest, then you will allow yourself the ability to actually perceive those opportunities, to perceive those doorways, to have the inspirations come into your imagination from the higher mind that allow you the ability to see what the path actually needs to be to allow the manifestation that is reflective of the energy state you are creating in that single eventful moment, allowing the manifestation that is truly representative of that energy to manifest. And again, please remember, manifestation is not attracting something to you from somewhere else. Everything already exists right here, right now. You already, in a sense, have it. You already, in a sense, are it. Manifestation is simply being in the energy state that allows you to be able to perceive, to make visible to you what is already here, that is now invisible to you. But you already contain it. You already have it. It doesn't come from somewhere else. That's why it's so important to watch the definitions and start transforming all the definitions that are part and parcel of the this or that scenario into this and that kind of energy, so that you can start realigning your definitions, such as this definition we have just discussed of manifestation. Because when you operate from a this or that perspective, it creates the idea of separation, and thus creates the idea that, well, something is either here or it's not. It's over there or it's not. Instead of understanding that it may appear to be there and it is also here. You need to start linking, unifying these kinds of definitions within any given individual scenario, within any individual given concept, in order to really begin to understand how to simplify your relationship with creation and help you understand the nature and structure of existence, in that everything is one thing and every moment is one moment. So when you understand it from that point of view, it's no longer this or that, it's this and that. Everything is there and everything is here. Everything is here and everything appears to be there. It's all the same idea. It's just a different perspective. And by having the this and that perspective, it will allow you to understand that. It will allow you to see the bigger picture that includes all of those positions, all of those descriptions, all of those definitions that work for you, instead of the this or that scenario that starts excluding other definitions as being impossible, improbable, not capable of actually occurring, not capable of being relevant, and not capable of being perceived by you as another way to look at the nature and structure of your event as it is framed against the nature and structure of existence itself. We will assume that at least some of what we are saying is clear. And we will assume that if any of what we are saying is not clear, you will attract whatever you need to understand it more clearly through the synchronicity in your life, because you know that even though there may be only certain things you know now, you will know more in the next moment and the moment after that you have created, because it's all the same moment and contains all the information. All right here, all right now, all accessible to you when you allow yourself to be in the moment. You will thus then perceive more of what already exists in the moment. This and that. Now, let us discuss this art form, this balancing act, from a completely different point of view, a completely different analogy, and hence the subtitle, the reflection and the spectrum that leads to the idea of reflection. And when we talk about the idea of spectrum, let us truly use the terminology in this analogy that has to do with the idea of frequency and vibration as it relates to the visible spectrum of light that you are so familiar with in your physical reality experience. What you call the rainbow, what you call that spectrum, what you call those colors, primary and secondary, that make up all of your experiences in perceptibility in the physical realm, in terms of your vision, in terms of your sight. Let us use this analogy as a permission slip, as a tool. Permission slips simply being any tool, any technique, any ritual that allows you to give yourself permission to be more of who you are. This permission slip, this spectrum of reflection permission slip, we now simply share as an analogy to appeal, shall we say, to different parts of your brain, different ways in which many of you absorb information and lock it in and make it real for yourselves. Imagine, if you will, now in any way, shape, or form that works for your imagination, the idea of what you call the three primary colors of light: red, blue, green. Yes, I know, some of you say, wait a minute, isn't it red, blue, yellow? In pigment, it is. But in light, it is red, blue, and green. We will not get into why at the moment. That's another discussion. Nevertheless, you understand that as prisms exist in your reality, and you see the white light, the unbroken light, coming through that prism and breaking down into the spectrum, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. You understand that by recombining those individual colors, those individual frequencies, you can once again blend them back into white light, which contains all frequencies of light. That's why it appears to be white to your senses. So let's look at this idea of the balancing, the focus, from this colorful perspective. Imagine thus then that you have this white light that represents the idea, shall we say, of the ideal self, the higher mind, unbroken, unfiltered, pure, beautiful, a homogeneous white light. As thus then it is filtered through the prism of your personality with its beliefs and its emotions and thoughts, it is broken down into the spectrum of your physical reality experience and all the details within it. But for now, in this analogy, we will keep it simple and just work with the idea of the three primary colors, the red, the blue, the green. Now, as many of you already know, when you start to overlap these colors, if you will imagine perhaps spotlights or circles of these colors, if you start to overlap some of them, you will get the secondary colors. If you overlap the idea of the red with the blue, you will get the violet. If you overlap the idea of the red and the green, you will get the orange. If you overlap the idea of the blue and the green, you will get the yellow. And of course, in pigment, if you mix the idea of the blue and the yellow, you will get green. But going back to the light, imagine thus then that if you were to bring these three circles of color closer and closer and closer together, and as you start to see these circles intersect with each other, creating what you call the vesica piscis of the secondary colors of the violet and the yellow and the orange, you will thus then, as these circles come closer and closer together, recognize that when they finally touch, all three touch in the center, they will blend back into the idea of white, because you have now included all the frequencies within that spectrum, within that rainbow, and they will blend back to white. So now imagine that as this white light originally starts out from the higher mind and filters itself through the prism of your personality and creates these primary colors of red and blue and green, that in each primary color, there are nearly an infinite number of shades of red, an infinite number of shades of blue, an infinite number of shades of green. Some of them may seem to be very subtle differences. Some of them may be very profound differences. And of course, some of this has to do, again, with the idea of mixing these three colors, these three primaries, in different ratios, so that you're bringing in the secondary vibrations to create the different shades. But what we can focus on here is the idea that as these three primaries, red, blue, and green, exist, and exist in different shades, it is the different subtle shadings that, when brought together and overlapped in the center, will not exactly create white, but will create a shading of white, an off-white, perhaps even all the way down to a dull gray, and maybe even a black. The idea being that when the three primary vibrations of red, blue, and green altered, shaded, tinted by different ratios of the secondary vibrations, they will, when coming together, not actually completely reconstitute the original white light. In this analogy, these shadings are different belief systems that are out of alignment with your true self, not in alignment with the pure frequency of your true being. When your beliefs are in alignment and these spectra are in their pure vibratory frequencies, then when combined, they will recreate that pure white light. But if there are definitions within you that are creating these colors to be tinted and shaded in ways that takes them out of their primary frequency, then when you combine them, when you attempt to combine them, you will find that you will not get the pure white light. You will be off kilter, off frequency, off the vibration of your true natural self, as is being given to you as a guidepost from the higher mind. That pure white light is your guidepost, your marker for the vibration that represents your true natural self. So, as we have discussed many times, the idea of the vibration that is representative of your true natural self in terms of a bodily enactment being what you call excitement, passion, love, creativity, joy. The idea here is that we are now creating a color analogy of this idea. And since we have also talked about the fact that definitions and beliefs that are out of alignment with your true self will dampen down the idea of the excitement, will filter the excitement into what you call fear and self-doubt, here too, in this analogy, you will see that the filters of beliefs that are out of alignment will alter the pure vibrational colors of the primaries into different tints and shades so that when they combine, they will not create the pure white light. So the idea here is to use this analogy, to use this permission slip tool as a visual guide to aid and assist you in finding out, in discovering, in exploring, and researching, and investigating what your belief systems are all about. Because if you understand that the pure white light of the higher mind is, in a sense, your guidepost, that that's what you're attempting to match the frequency of by acting on your excitement, in using this spectrum analogy, this prism analogy, this reflective spectra permission slip, you may actually begin to get the sensation in a more refined way, in a more finely tuned way, of whether or not you are harboring definitions and beliefs that are out of alignment with your true self by actually looking at the tints and the shades of the three primary colors and seeing whether they are truly, truly pure, and in bringing them together where they are truly creating a pure white light. Now, you can use it this way to examine the beliefs that you have, and you can also use it as a permission slip to bring yourself back into alignment if you believe, if you feel, if you experience yourself as being out of alignment, if you experience the idea of the tints and the shades and the variations that are not the pure frequencies of the three primaries and are not creating the pure frequency of the white light in the center when they overlap, you can use the idea of the three primaries in their pure form and use the idea, envision the idea of them overlapping to create the pure, bright, pristine, vibrational white light as a way of guiding yourself back to the vibration of your true natural being. And in so doing, you can see the tints and the shades leaving, changing, shifting. And as you use this permission slip in this way visually, you may actually find that it actually helps bring some of the unconscious, out of alignment belief systems to the surface of your consciousness. It actually can bring them to your attention by using this particular permission slip technique of the spectrum of reflection. By actually bringing them with your imagination into alignment and creating the tints to shift, then the things, the components, the secondary vibrations that caused the tinting, that caused the shading may stand out. This is how you use exclusion in an inclusive way. You are now actually creating an exclusion of the secondary frequencies, but you are including them in the process of helping you discover what the true primary frequencies are for you. That allows you to experience the true white light at the center of the overlap. So this again is the paradoxical exclusion and inclusion of these frequencies to guide yourself into the discovering of what belief systems you may be harboring unconsciously that are taking you out of alignment with your true natural self. This can be very powerful as a permission slip for many of you, especially those who are visually oriented. And especially because color, for many of you, has such a strong, strong vibratory attraction. You can help yourself create these visualizations, if you wish, through the utilization of your technologies. Much of the technology that is utilized in your holotope with regard to your light-emitting diodes do emit very pure frequencies of light, and you can use these to guide you. Use the pure red, use the pure blue, use the pure green lights to guide you. See them coming together in such a way as to create the pure white flash, the pure white vibration. Use whatever techniques your imagination so desires, because this is your permission slip. And you are tapping into vast resources of the collective consciousness with respect to the idea of color frequency when you do this. And you are gaining support and being given support by the collective consciousness with respect to the idea of these vibrations, because they are very fundamental and ensconced within the collective consciousness in a very profound and deep and anchored way. So use them. Use them because they are there. All the support is there. The support of the whole is there. The support of the whole for the individual is there in those frequencies, in that light. Because remember, fundamentally, you are made of energy. You are made of light, so to speak. It is one of the first expressions of your consciousness in physical terms. What we term electromagnetic energy is one of the first physicalizations of consciousness in the process of crystallizing your consciousness into a more solid seeming physical reality experience. Use that light. It's the first level of your crystallization. And it can act as the crucible to unlock you from the deep-seated crystallization and allow you more flexibility, malleability, fluidity, plasticity in your rearrangement of your understanding, in your rearrangement of your definitions of yourself, of your being. And always as you go through using these permission slip, or whatever permission slip your imagination attracts to you, which works best for you at any given moment, always remember, it's this and that, not this or that, within any given exclusive focus of circumstance and situation. Look for all the doors, all the windows, all the paths, all the options, all the expressions, all the perspectives, all the points of view, the big picture. Look for the big picture and all the ways it can be understood, and all the ways it can be defined, and all the ways it can be perceived, and all the ways it can be experienced, even while this is all an experience of one single exclusive thing. Look for all the things that are relevant. Create other things to be relevant that you believe are in harmony and in alignment with your preferred vibration of who you prefer to define yourself to be, of who you know you are. Use the this and that principle in this way, and it will serve you in a very powerful, very broadening sort of way. At this time, each of you become comfortable. Take a few deep breaths. Breathe in and exhale. Breathe in and exhale. Breathe in and exhale. And allow this information to sink in whatever way, shape, or form will work best for you. And you don't have to have an intellectual comprehension of exactly how that's going to work. Remember, the physical mind does not know and is not built to know and thus is not capable of knowing how something is going to happen. The higher mind is, let the higher mind do its job. Let it sink in the best way, knowing that when the higher mind knows the best way for this information to sink in, it knows the best way, and the best way includes the physical mind, includes all aspects of your physical experience. It includes everything. The physical mind is a focus. In a sense, the physical mind is the excluder. The higher mind is the includer. And you need to allow them to work together in harmony and balance so that you can take advantage not only of where it is appropriate to experience the this or that scenario, but also at the same time where it is appropriate to overlap it with the this and that scenario of the higher mind. Because that's the higher mind's perspective. Everything to the higher mind is always this and that. Even though more often than not to the physical mind it seems only to be this or that. Do not get caught up in those conundrums. Do not get caught up in those mazes of confusion. That it's got to be this or it's got to be that or it doesn't make sense. It can make perfect sense being this and that if you simply find the balance point between the two. They are not really in opposition, even though they may seem to be opposites. Both have to come from the same source. Both have to come from the same center. That's the ultimate paradox, is that what seems to be completely exclusive and contradictory to something else must, by definition, still be coming from exactly the same source as that came from. Thus, then, they are simply two sides of the same coin. And without either, there is no coin, and thus you have nothing to appreciate. Allow yourselves the opportunity in your breathing and in your meditations and in your relaxations to focus on the idea of inclusivity and use it within your experience of exclusivity so that you are not simply continuing on a path of exclusion and spiraling into the negative downward spiral that diminishes and diminishes and diminishes and diminishes your understanding and concept of yourself. Simultaneously with the exclusive focus that allows you the opportunity to have a physical experience, simultaneously have the expanded appreciation of inclusivity, of all that is, that everything is here and now, everything. And that even as you select, even as you choose one exclusive aspect, one exclusive point of view at any given moment, that does not mean that all the other points of view aren't there anymore. They are all there, all available to you, so you can shift and change any time you wish, any way you wish. And if you would but allow both to exist in that paradoxical center point of power, then you will be very easily capable of balancing both of those out, using both sides of the coin, and that is a state of being that will enrich you in unlimited ways. Take a moment, all of you, let this sink in. Take a deep breath. And with every breath in, you know that this is crystallizing within you, rewiring your brain to understand these things more efficiently. Because every single thought you have rewires your brain. Every single change is a total change, and you become a totally different person, literally, with every single change, because you are constantly shifting, moment to moment, billions of times per second, from one parallel reality to another. You are never the same person, never, never, never the same perspective, from moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment, billions of times per second. You are that fluid. You are that flexible. You are that plastic. You are that malleable. You are that free. So understand that all of the focus, all the limitation, all the exclusivity, all the this or that is always nothing more than the most fleeting of temporary manifestations. Because it is never the same at any moment, billions of times per second. So you are always in a balanced state of this and that, even while you're exploring the idea of this or that. Because this or that can only last for the briefest blink of a second. Because this and that is what you're using to propel you through the infinite series of parallel realities, each of which represent a this or that scenario. You're using them both as a mechanism to create the experience you call physical space-time. Because time and space are side effects of the shifting of your consciousness through a series of infinite parallel realities, billions of times per second. That's what time is. It's a side effect of that shifting. And you're using the mechanisms of this or that and this and that simultaneously to propel you through that series of focused parallel reality experiences in order to create the illusion and the experience of space and time, in order to experience creation and its mechanism of creation in a unique way. Why? Why do you do it that way? Why do you have the physical focus? Why do you have a physical experience at all? Not meaning to be flippant, not meaning to be in any way, shape, or form sarcastic. The real answer is, why not? All things are possible. All things that you can imagine exist. Physical reality experience is one of them. And thus then it is just as valid, just as valuable, just as important, just as equal to any other experience, any other way of experiencing. And as a higher mind, as a spirit, as an oversoul, as an aspect, as a reflection of all that is, you know this. And thus then from that perspective, exclude nothing. Even as all that is imposes exclusivity on itself in order to know itself as all the things within all that is, because it has to impose exclusivity and limitation on itself in order to experience itself as an individual aspect of itself. But even as it does that, it still knows it is all that is. It includes everything that it is as equally valid, and by supporting and including everything that it is as equally valid, it has the capability thus then of experiencing anything that it is on an individual level in an exclusive way. These two things work hand in hand harmoniously to create your experience. They are not in any way, shape, or form truly mutually exclusive. You have to have both in order to have the kinds of experiences that you are having. But it is very important, if you want a harmonious experience, to use them both in a conscious way, in the same way that all that is does. You allow it all to be valid. The positive, the negative, all of it is perfect as it is. And while allowing it all to be valid, while allowing this and that and that and that to be valid, you thus then give yourself the power and the ability to focus and choose any particular aspect of this and that in order to experience this from that. And thus then actually delve into this or that. And give yourself the concept of choice. Choice. This or that allows you to choose whatever aspect of this and that is uniquely your vibration. And so this or that exhibits positive and negative attributes like anything. This and that exhibits positive and negative attributes like anything. But this and that is definitely geared mechanically toward inclusivity. And this or that is simply geared mechanically towards the idea of the negative in terms of exclusivity. Positive, negative, negative, positive, all in balance, all perfect harmony, all different aspects, different tools, different perspectives, different ways of having the experience of yourself as an individuated aspect of all that is, using both simultaneously to create the experience of space and time and physical life, and also to form the relationship more strongly with higher mind, spirit and soul, and oversoul self and source of all that is. Balance. 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 Breathe it in and exhale and create a new atmosphere, a new understanding, a new reality vibration with every breath you take in and every exhalation. It is a new world, a new reality, a new moment of the same moment, a new perspective of the same moment, the only moment that exists. There is only one. Of the here and now, there is only one place, here, only one moment, now. And everything that you think is a different thing is the same thing from a different point of view. And every moment you think is a different moment is the same moment from a different point of view. This and that. This or that. Use them both to your benefit in whatever way you so prefer. Because it is up to you. You have the freedom to choose based on this or that, the freedom to choose whatever of this and that you so desire to experience. Allow yourselves to choose in freedom what is truly relevant for the unique individual aspect of creation. Each and every one of you was created to be. And remember, even though there may seem to be beginnings and endings within time and space are subject to existence, but existence is not subject to time and space. You are made of existence itself. You are made of creation itself, because there is nothing else to make anything from. Thus then, you are timeless, spaceless, you are here, you are now, and you are also the experience of then and there and forever, with no beginning and no ending, except the experience of beginnings and endings within time and space. But as an aspect of existence itself, you have no beginning and no ending, because those concepts are subject to existence, are created within existence, and existence is not subject to them. And ultimately, neither are you, because you are an expression of existence itself. Everything that you call a different thing is a reflection of you from a different point of view. Look deeply at the mirror. Look fully at the reflections. And bring to bear in your relationship with all the reflections that exist in your reality, in your experience, bring to bear both the exclusivity of this or that gives you the freedom to choose, and the inclusivity of this and that allows you to know that everything you see is you in a different form, is you in another parallel definition, is you in another facet of the multidimensional crystal of creation, of all that is. Breathe it in. Breathe it in. Breathe it in. And let it out. And know that as you exhale, you are sending out, radiating out with every exhalation, with every heartbeat, with every thought, a new vibration, a new understanding that is far more harmonious, far more blended, far more in balance with the idea of this or that and this and that. And that this will sink in whatever way you need it to. You will be given the reflections. You will see the facets. You will see the shards of the mirror you need to see that will contain the reflections you need to see in order to understand how to use this, how to have, how to know, how to be the relationship that you are with all that is, the relationship you are of all that is with itself. The spectrum of reflection, the colors of the rainbow, the infinite shades and tints of your frequencies, the white light, the pure, balanced white light of your true being. Breathe it in, let it out. Breathe it in and let it out. Breathe it in and let it out. And be refreshed, and be alert, and be awake, and be new. A new you, truly new for the very first time, a new perspective. Even though it all exists, even though the structure of all that is always exists, it's the experiences, the points of view that are new. The combinations, the infinite combinations of that same structure that are new and that are representative of the perspectives of each and every one of you. The beauty, the harmony, the palette, the riotous shades of colors that each and every one of you are, that form the spectrum of reflection for all that is and of all that is, by all that is. You are all that is, and it is you. Now, we are going to do something a little different in this transmission. It is, generally speaking now, timing for you to go and have your break and refresh yourselves and ponder and let these things sink in. Soak them up. Let them sustain you. Roll them around in your mind, on your tongue. Absorb them. Taste them. Savor them. This or that, this and that. The balance point. Power of the balance point. Sit with it. Lie with it. Be with it. Be it. After your refreshment break, at the end of the second part of this transmission, we will guide you in a deep holotope meditation to help crystallize these concepts within your consciousness. But this will be the only pre-recorded segment of this transmission. After your refreshment break, we will simply begin with live interactions of questions and answers until such time as it is time and timing for the holotope meditation. Because there are many things that need to be addressed and many discussions that are important to have at this timing between us in a live context for things that are to come in the crossing of the threshold that is now fast approaching as you approach your year of 2013. Enjoy your break. We will resume this transmission with live interaction of questions and answers afterward. Our unconditional love to you, Ha too.